When we're just trying to solve one simple problem right now, often going through and iterating in a conversation and giving refinement and iteratively sort of solving the problem in the conversation is the best way. But sometimes we want to build prompts that are reusable, like these writing personas, and we're really going to spend time thinking about how do we improve that prompt and what is the process for building that prompt. Now, one of the things that I've heard a lot about is people say, well, I just don't know what process to follow or how to start. Like some people just seem to be able to figure this stuff out. I don't really know how to go and build a prompt that's reusable that I can, try out a lot. Now, we've seen with the writing persona how we can do this, sort of a structure that we can use to go and build things. Now, there's other patterns we can use, but I want to give you a sort of basic process that can be really powerful and can be applied to a lot of different contexts to build really robust prompts that are pretty strong and can do what you want. Now, it doesn't work in all contexts, but it's one process that I find really helpful and that I use myself. And I started realizing that I was doing the same thing over and over, and so I gave it a name, and this is something that I teach people now. And this is called preference-driven refinement of prompts. And I want to take you through this process. Basically, what we're going to do is we are going to leverage the LLM to help us build the examples for our prompt that we can use to show it how to solve the problem. Now, sometimes I don't have a lot of text that's solving the problem in the way that I want, or that doesn't sound like I want, or I don't have examples that I can show it of, whatever problem I want solved. And so I might have to go and create those myself by hand, but a lot of times when I'm using generative AI, I don't want to do everything by hand. So let me show you the process, and I'll come back to these steps in a minute and we'll explain them and they'll make a lot more sense. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to solve this problem of I'm writing an email to my colleagues to announce my new prompt engineering course. I don't, have a bunch of sample emails sitting around that I can collect that have the right tone that I want to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by asking it, write an email to my colleagues announcing my new prompt engineering course. Now I'm going to use the naive prompt and I'm going to get it to generate some output. And it goes through and it generates an email that's got a lot of problems, like the one that I keep harping on, which is it says, I'm thrilled to announce, and I'm never going to say that in an email. Now, how do I start improving my prompt other than just going and trying to add instructions and copy and paste, examples maybe of my writing, which I don't have in this case? What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at what it produced in its output, and I'm going to identify what I like about it and what I don't like about it. So I don't like I'm thrilled to announce. I'm not ever going to say that. I do like this other section that it produced in another time. So what I did is I only generated that one time, but I generated multiple times just with that one prompt to get some different outputs from it. And I'm going to take sections of its output and I'm going to copy and paste them, and I'm going to bring them back into the prompt like this. I'm going to say examples of what I don't like, and then I'm going to separate those off, and I'm going to give it some examples of what I don't like, examples of what I like, and then I'm going to give it examples of what I like. And so I'm injecting my preferences into the prompt. And the way that I'm doing this is I'm having it generate some output. A lot of it I don't like, some of it I do like, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give it feedback by selecting from what it created that I liked and bring it into the prompt, and what it created that I don't like and bringing it in the prompt. And so I'm injecting my preferences into the prompt by taking examples of what it created and bringing them back and labeling them as either things I like or don't like. Now, there's other ways you could label this, and we'll see that later, but you kind of get the basic idea. I'm using it to generate output. I'm taking its output and I'm essentially giving it feedback by selecting what I like and what I don't like from its output and bringing it back into the prompt. At the same time, I will typically go and add an extra instruction or two to help sort of refine. So in this case, I say write an email to my colleagues announcing my new prompt engineering course, and then I add an additional sentence, something that I didn't tell it originally, which is emphasize the importance of prompt engineering for graduate students performing research. So I am doing preference-driven refinement, and two things are happening. One, I'm generating examples, and I'm taking selections of those examples that I liked and didn't like, and I'm bringing them back into the prompt. And then two, I'm adding some additional instructions. So now I have this new, bigger prompt. I go and run it again, and now I'm getting output that's starting to look better. It says, I'm pleased to inform you about the launch of our new course. So it's ditched, I'm thrilled. And it's got some more sort of structure and things that I like in here. And I'm going to go through this process again where I'm going to find, excerpts from its output that I like and excerpts from its output that I don't like. And I'm going to copy and paste those back into the prompt as yet additional examples of what I like and what I don't like. Now, you can use this to express and give examples of things other than what I like and don't like, but we're still kind of thinking about it in this context of writing. But you can begin to see how you can generalize this idea for other problems with prompt engineering. So I go back and I said, now I have a bigger list of things I like, bigger list of things I don't like, and I add one additional instruction, which is use simple and direct language without too many adjectives like exciting, good, etc. So I have, through this simple process of get it to generate some output, take things I like and don't like, put them back into the prompt, I am starting to build up this robust prompt that's rich with examples, but also is incrementally building on the instructions. And now, when it goes and it generates that email, I get something that is actually not too bad. Now I've got a draft that's much closer to something that I would be willing to use, something that doesn't take a ton of editing for me to take from this form into something I could, reuse. And now I've got a reusable prompt where I can go and start taking this prompt, and when I need to draft some announcement email, it may not work for other emails because an announcement email is probably different from an email responding to a particular colleague. But now if I need to craft an email announcement and send it to colleagues, that's probably a prompt that I could use as a starting point. So I want to go back and review these steps, these simple steps. Step one, build just a simple, normal prompt. Doesn't have to be super sophisticated. Input it into the large language model and get some output out. Step two, go and find sections in that output that you like or don't like and copy and paste them. You're going to want those as examples to help guide it. Those are your preferences. Now, you don't have to do examples of what you don't like, but showing it what you like is critically important from my experience. You're going to take those examples of what you like and optionally what you don't like, and you're going to put them back into the prompt as examples. So you're basically modifying your prompt to incorporate what it produced that you liked and what it produced that you didn't like as examples of what to do or what not to do. And then you might add an instruction or two to the prompt. And then you're going to generate more output. And at each step, you can generate multiple times with the same prompt. And in fact, that's a good practice to get a lot of different examples that you can draw from for your preferences. And then you're going to take those examples, you're going to put them back in as what you like or what you don't like. You're going to add an instruction or two, and you're going to repeat the process. And you keep repeating this process until you get output that you like. What I find is this can be an extremely effective process for going from a prompt that isn't at all producing what you want to one that is producing fantastic output that you can then reuse. And I want to just take you back as a quick review of what this final prompt looked like. We have some instructions that we've built up, and they're not complex instructions. They don't have a ton of information in there, but they have some simple rules. We have a bunch of examples of what we don't like and a lot of examples of what we do like, and then we're telling it what to write. And what we're getting is a prompt that's now becoming reusable through a consistent process that we can apply over and over. You have something that you want to build a prompt for that's reusable. You start off with your instructions. Have it generate some output. Go find examples of what it did well or what it didn't do well. And if you need to generate multiple times with that same prompt to get those examples, that's fine. But find those examples of what it did well and what it didn't do well, copy and paste them, and bring them back into the prompt and tell them, this is what you did well, this is what you didn't do well. You're basically giving it feedback through a kind of interesting little process. Then go back and generate again multiple examples. Find what you like and what you don't like, bring it back into the prompt, and maybe add some additional instructions. And just repeat this process, and what you'll see is it quickly hones in on prompts that you can reuse that get you to where you want to be. This simple process of what do I like, what do I don't like, how do I get it to generate more of what I like and less of what I don't like. But it's not something where you're just going to go and say, do it once. You're going to have to really think and inject your own thought into how do I build this prompt. And the way that you're injecting your thought into it is by selecting what you do and don't like. You are becoming the judge, but then critically, you're taking your feedback and giving it back to it in the prompt. And this is the step that most people miss, is they go and give it a prompt, get output, they don't like it, they try again by modifying the prompt, but they never gave it feedback on what it did well or what it did not do well. And they missed out on the power of in-context learning because they didn't give it examples.